Arthur should have known better than to answer Jeff's text. Come to 34 Hollowbrook Lane. Big project. Need help. Bring snacks. The address led him to a hulking, decrepit Victorian house on the edge of town. It looked like it had been abandoned for at least a century. Windows boarded up, vines crawling up the sides like nature itself was trying to strangle the place, and a front porch so warped it looked like a mouth frozen mid-scream. A for sale sign lay half buried in the overgrown lawn, as if the realtor had given up trying to offload the property. Arthur checked his phone again. Yup, this is the place. The front door swung open before he could knock, and Jeff's grinning face emerged from the darkness, eyes gleaming with chaotic excitement. Arthur, my favorite unpaid intern, welcome to my latest masterpiece. Arthur took a slow step back. No. Whatever this is, no. Jeff ignored him, grabbing his wrist and dragging him inside. Too late. You're here. You're involved. Let's get to work. The interior wasn't any better than the outside. Dust choked the air, cobwebs hung from every corner, and the wallpaper peeled like old skin. But what caught Arthur's attention was the sheer amount of stuff Jeff had already set up. A hallway of fake hanging corpses. A room filled with flickering jack-o'-lanterns that all turned to watch Arthur when he walked past. A doorway lined with skeletal hands, one of which actually reached for his sleeve. Arthur stopped short. Jeff, did you build all this in one day? Jeff huffed. Of course not. Some of it was pre-installed, which, by the way, is a sign of good real estate. Very haunted house ready. Arthur pinched the bridge of his nose. Why? Just why? Jeff spun dramatically, arms outstretched. Because I, Jeffrey the Demon, am creating the greatest haunted house this world has ever seen. None of those weak-ass, underfunded human attractions with plastic skeletons and discount fog machines. No, this will be real. Arthur narrowed his eyes. Define real. Jeff grinned wider. I may have borrowed a few supernatural elements to spice things up. Arthur folded his arms. Stolen. You stole supernatural elements. Borrowed. Look, it's harmless stuff. You're my official scare tester. Just go through the house and tell me if it's nightmare-worthy. Arthur groaned. Fine. But if I get hexed, I'm suing you. Jeff clapped his hands. Fantastic. Let's begin. Test number 1. The Whispering Hallway. Arthur stepped into a dimly lit corridor, the air heavy with the scent of old wood and something damp. Shadows twisted on the walls as he moved forward. Then, the whispers started. Turn back. You're not welcome here. Arthur sighed. Jeff, this is basic horror movie stuff. The whispers grew more frantic. Leave, or else. A sudden gust of wind slammed the door behind him. Arthur flinched but stood his ground. Okay, that was decent. But is this just an audio effect? Jeff poked his head around the corner. Maybe. Did you like it? Arthur rolled his eyes. It's a start. Test number 2. The Screaming Door. Jeff led him to another room where an old wooden door sat slightly ajar. Open it, Jeff instructed, barely suppressing a grin. Arthur reached out and... Ah! The door shrieked as it swung open, the sound high-pitched and human, like someone being dragged into the abyss. Arthur staggered back. What the hell? Jeff was practically vibrating with glee. Right? Found it in a cursed antique shop. That's the soul of some guy named Greg. Arthur took a slow, calming breath. You cursed a door with someone's soul. Not me, per se, but Greg was annoying, so it's fine. Arthur rubbed his temples. This is why you're not allowed in antique stores anymore. Test number 3. The Living Portraits. Arthur was led to a hallway lined with dusty portraits of various grim-looking figures. He glanced at one of a stern old woman, only for her eyes to move. Yeah, haunted paintings. Seen it before, he muttered. The woman's mouth curled into a smirk. You should smile more, dear. You'd look less miserable. Arthur recoiled. Okay, that's new. Jeff doubled over, laughing. They're interactive. I infused them with ghostly sass. Arthur frowned at another painting of a mustachioed man. Are these real ghosts? The mustache man scowled. Define real. Arthur turned to Jeff with the most exhausted look possible. Jeff coughed. Moving on. After an hour of suffering through various horrors, some genuinely unsettling, most just Jeff being Jeff, Arthur finally reached the final room. The moment he stepped in, the temperature plummeted. The lights flickered. The walls shifted. Arthur froze. Jeff? Jeff peeked in. Huh. That's new. A deep, guttural voice rumbled through the room. Who dares disturb this place? Arthur turned slowly toward Jeff. Please tell me that's part of the effects. Jeff rubbed his chin. Well, I did enhance the house's energy with a ritual. Arthur paled. A what? Relax. It was just a little spell to make things extra spooky. A force slammed the door shut. The air thickened, the shadows in the corners stretching, writhing. The deep voice growled again. You have awakened us. Arthur backed up to the wall. Jeff, fix this now. Jeff, completely unbothered, tapped his chin. The manual did say something about possible spirit binding. But in my defense, I got the book for way cheaper than market price, so I call that a win. Arthur grabbed him by the collar. Jeff, I swear to all things holy. The shadows moved. The walls groaned. And then, the whispering started again. Only this time, it wasn't Jeff's pre-installed effects. Jeff grinned. Oh, Arthur, you are gonna love this twist. Arthur clenched his teeth. I hate you. And then, the room went completely dark. The darkness wasn't just a lack of light. It had weight. A suffocating presence pressed down on Arthur's chest, thick and heavy like it had intentions. Jeff, on the other hand, was laughing. Oh man, this is great. Jeff's voice echoed unnaturally in the pitch-black space. This totally wasn't in the original plan, but I gotta say, Arthur, this haunted house is so immersive. Arthur gritted his teeth. Jeff, if I die in here, I swear to every deity I'll haunt you for eternity. Yeah. Jeff waved him off. At least Arthur thought he waved him off. It was hard to tell when he couldn't see anything. Then, the whispering returned. But this time, it was different. You should not have done this. Arthur's breath caught in his throat. The voice wasn't coming from Jeff's cheap horror effects. It came from everywhere. Jeff hummed, clearly unimpressed. Okay, who's monologuing? You have bound us to this place, demon. Arthur turned sharply. Bound? Jeff, what did you do? Okay, technically I didn't do anything wrong, Jeff said, crossing his arms. I just, may have slightly activated a spiritual entrapment ward by accident. Arthur blinked. A what? I might have used a ritual that made the house so haunted that any ghost that steps inside can't leave, Jeff admitted, scratching the back of his head. But in my defense, no one reads the fine print on old grimoires. Arthur grabbed Jeff by the collar. You trapped actual spirits in here? Jeff, that's not an attraction. That's a full-blown supernatural hostage situation. Before Jeff could respond with some sarcastic nonsense, a cold breeze curled around Arthur's neck, like icy fingers just barely pressing against his skin. You will set us free. Arthur stepped back instinctively. Jeff, meanwhile, placed his hands on his hips. Yeah, I hear you, oh ghostly collective. But let's be real. This is great for business. I mean, do you have any idea how much people would pay for a legit haunted house? Arthur turned to him in disbelief. Jeff, they are literally threatening us. Jeff scoffed. No, they're negotiating. A blast of cold air sent Jeff tumbling back, slamming into the wall. Arthur barely had time to react before the shadows around them began to move. The walls creaked and shifted, warping like something inside them was pressing to get out. And then, they saw her. A woman in a tattered Victorian dress emerged from the darkness. Her eyes were hollow sockets, her lips pulled back in a thin, grimace-like smirk. The air around her was wrong, like the laws of reality bent to accommodate her presence. Jeff tilted his head. Huh, you look important. Arthur resisted the urge to smack him. The ghost's voice echoed through the house. I am Edna Hollowbrook. This was my home, and you have imprisoned me. Arthur held up his hands in surrender. Listen, Miss Hollowbrook, this was all a misunderstanding. Jeff here is... A visionary? Jeff offered. A moron, Arthur corrected. Edna's gaze snapped to Jeff. Do you think this is amusing, demon? Jeff hesitated, then shrugged. I mean, yeah, kinda. The lights flickered violently, the walls groaned as if the house itself disapproved. Arthur yanked Jeff back. Stop antagonizing the vengeful spirit. Edna exhaled slowly, and the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. You have one chance, demon. Free us, or we will make this house yours forever. Arthur's stomach twisted. He believed her. Jeff, however, leaned in. Wait, are you saying you'll make me part of the house? Like a permanent resident? Like my own haunted attraction? Edna's hollow sockets narrowed. You misunderstand, fool. I will make sure you never leave. Jeff scratched his chin. I don't know. That kinda sounds like job security. Arthur physically turned to Jeff. What is wrong with you? Edna sighed, long and slow. I see now. You will not listen to reason. Arthur barely had time to react before the walls shifted again, the floor beneath them tilting. He grabbed onto a doorframe to keep from falling, but Jeff, ever the graceful idiot, tumbled backward into the darkness. Jeff! Arthur lunged, but the shadows swallowed him whole. Then, as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The house was still. The air was heavy, and Jeff was gone. Arthur took a slow breath and turned to Edna. Okay, let's negotiate. Edna's smirk grew wider. Smart boy. Arthur had been in bad situations before. Being dragged into Jeff's schemes meant navigating hellhounds, rogue spirits, cursed artifacts, and, one time, an eldritch hot dog cart. But this was bad. Jeff was gone. The house was now alive with spirits that weren't thrilled about being trapped, and Arthur had exactly zero plans to get out of this unhaunted. Edna loomed before him, her hollow eye sockets fixed on him like she could see everything inside his soul. You are more reasonable than the demon? I assume you are willing to undo his mistake? Arthur swallowed hard. I mean, yeah, that's the goal. But I need to know what Jeff actually did before I can fix it. Edna nodded, and with a flick of her wrist, the walls around them shifted again. This time, instead of trying to crush him, they opened, revealing a swirling vortex of shadows in the center of the grand hall. At its core sat an old, dust-covered grimoire on a podium. Its pages fluttered wildly despite the lack of wind, as if it were alive. Arthur's stomach sank. Of course there's a cursed book involved. This, Edna said, gesturing to the book, is what binds us. The fool activated it without understanding its power. Arthur sighed. Yeah, that sounds like Jeff. Edna narrowed her eyes. Your only option is to undo the ritual. Arthur hesitated. And how do I do that? The book's magic is connected to its caster. He must willingly sever the bond. Arthur groaned. Of course he has to be involved. He ran a hand through his hair. Fine. I'll go find Jeff. Where did you send him? Edna's smirk widened. He is still inside the house. Arthur frowned. Then where? A loud thud echoed from upstairs, followed by Jeff's muffled voice. Oh, come on, this is just mean. Arthur turned his gaze upward. Great. Time to save the idiot. Again. Arthur climbed the creaking staircase, following the sounds of Jeff's complaints. The second floor was different. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. The chandeliers above swung even though there was no wind. And the air smelled of burnt paper and regret. Arthur finally found the door he was looking for. Another thud. Jeff? Arthur called, cautiously pushing it open. Inside was a hall of mirrors. Hundreds of reflections of Jeff stared back at him. But not all of them moved the same way. Some of them looked wrong, their grins too wide, their eyes glowing too bright, their fingers twitching like spiders. And in the center, Jeff, flat on his back, groaning. Ugh, finally. Arthur, I think these guys hate me. Arthur sighed. That's a common theme tonight. Jeff gestured vaguely at the mirrors. They keep showing me all my greatest mistakes, but joke's on them. I have zero regrets. Arthur peered into the nearest mirror. A version of Jeff was holding a clearly cursed amulet, moments before breaking it and unleashing a swarm of ghost bees. Arthur squinted. Yeah, that tracks. One of the reflections spoke. You will stay here forever, demon. Trapped with your failures. Jeff sat up, offended. Excuse me, but I don't fail. I just get unexpected results. Arthur turned to Jeff. Can we go now? Jeff dusted himself off. Yes, please. Arthur grabbed Jeff by the arm and yanked him out of the Hall of Mirrors. The reflections snarled in frustration, but they didn't follow. Once they were safely back in the hallway, Arthur shoved Jeff against the wall. You trapped actual spirits in this house. Jeff blinked. Okay, technically, I made them a part of something greater. Arthur groaned. Jeff, you need to break the spell. Jeff pouted. But, no buts. Go downstairs, apologize, and undo whatever nonsense you did. Jeff sighed dramatically. Ugh, fine. But I'm adding a no hard feelings clause. Back in the Grand Hall, Edna and the other spirits watched as Jeff approached the grimoire. All right, everybody calm down, Jeff said, rolling his shoulders. I get it. You don't love being part of my amazing haunted house. I thought it was a pretty sweet deal, but hey, I respect your right to be boring. Arthur buried his face in his hands. Jeff cracked his knuckles. So, let's reverse this thing. He placed his hands on the book. The pages shuddered like they didn't want to be touched. But Jeff, being Jeff, just smacked it like an old TV and muttered, Unhaunt. Undo. The book burst into flames. Arthur jumped back. Jeff, what did you do? Jeff grinned. I improvised. A powerful gust of wind roared through the house as the spirits, Edna included, began to fade, their forms dissolving into glowing wisps. Edna's eyes locked onto Jeff one last time. You are the worst demon I have ever encountered. Jeff put a hand over his heart. Oh, thanks. And with that, the spirits vanished. The house immediately stabilized. No more shifting walls, no more ominous whispers, no more horrific death threats. Arthur let out a slow breath. We're alive. Thank God. Jeff stretched. Yeah, I guess that could have gone bad. Arthur turned to him, deadpan. Jeff, you were about to become a permanent resident. Jeff waved him off. Ha, Edna wouldn't have actually done it. Arthur folded his arms. Jeff hesitated. Okay, maybe she would have. Arthur glared. Jeff coughed. Fine. Lesson learned. Don't use cursed grimoires to enhance a business venture. Arthur gave him a slow nod. Good. Unless I get a really good deal on one. Arthur grabbed Jeff by the collar and dragged him out of the house. Hey, what if we turn this place into a bed and breakfast? Jeff. I'm just saying, haunted Airbnbs are trendy. Arthur groaned. As they walked away, the old house creaked one last time. And, somewhere deep inside, something laughed.